It happened again. Same crash, same screech of tires, same sinking feeling in my gut like I already knew what I was going to see when I stepped outside. My coffee hit the floor before I even realized I'd dropped it. I swung the door open and just stood there for a second, breathing hard, looking at the sad pile of red-painted splinters lying in the tulips I'd just planted last weekend. My poor mailbox, again. Third time in 2 months. And there it was, the Queen Barge, what they actually named that ridiculous lifted white SUV, roaring off down the street like it had just knocked over a liquor store. I caught a flash of her face through the window, Tammy, that round, flushed face scrunched up in laughter, eyes squinting, mouth wide open, like she'd just pulled off the prank of the century. Riding shotgun, her twin sister Pam held up her phone, filming it all like she was hosting her own reality show. I picked up what used to be the base of the mailbox. One of the screws was still warm. The post smelled like burnt paint and maybe gasoline. And running right across the middle of my lawn, fresh tire tracks, like a scar on green skin. You know how people say you should always be the bigger person? I tried. When Tammy and Pam moved in across the street 6 months ago, I baked them banana bread. Real butter, ripe bananas, walnuts, whole thing. I knocked on their door, handed it over, smiled, said, "Welcome to the neighborhood." They laughed, not in a friendly way, like I'd just offered them roadkill on a platter. They never touched the bread. From day one, they were noise and perfume and confrontation. Big women in louder clothes, always wheezing, always yelling about something. The trash guy being too early, the neighbor's lawn not being patriotic enough, dogs barking too ethnically. That was their actual word. They wore matching floral sundresses that looked like they came from the discount rack of a retired cruise ship's gift shop. Their perfume hit you from 20 feet away, some horrifying mix of cherries, sunscreen, and despair. But their pride and joy? That white monstrosity of a truck? Queen Barge. They drove it like it had armor. Parallel parking was more like a demolition derby. And my mailbox? Well, apparently it was their favorite target. First time, they clipped it. Post cracked, barely hanging on. I fixed it, no big deal. Accidents happen, right? Second time, they plowed right through it like it owed them money. I caught Pam that afternoon in their driveway unloading frozen lasagna and snack cakes. I pointed at the mess across my yard and said, "You mind explaining that?" She looked at me like I'd just accused her of stealing the moon. "Maybe don't put it so close to the road," she said, sipping a Diet Dr. Pepper like she was doing me a favor. I said, "That's where mailboxes go." She smiled. "Well, maybe if it was prettier, I'd try not to hit it." That was the moment I realized this wasn't about bad driving. This was personal. These two had declared war, and I was still playing by peacetime rules. I tried the HOA. Their answer, "We'll look into it." That's HOA speak for, "We'll never speak of this again." I filed a police report. Officer Riggins told me unless I had proof they did it on purpose, it was just a civil matter. No charges, no justice, just, "Sorry, bud." So I bought a camera. Motion-activated, wide-angle, 1080p, night vision. 2 weeks later, I caught the whole thing. Tammy lined the Queen Barge up from halfway up the street, hit the gas, swerved just enough to line up the shot, and boom, dead center. Wood exploded. Pam laughed so hard she dropped her iced coffee all over her leopard print leggings. And they didn't stop. They just kept driving. I brought the footage to the HOA. Their response? "We prefer neighbors handle things among themselves." Called the cops. "Could have been an accident," they said. "Tough to prove intent." I printed a still from the video, right at the moment of impact, and walked across the street while they were hauling in a trunk full of microwavable tacos. I held it up. You want to explain this? Tammy didn't even blink. Photoshop. It's a video. Deep fake, Pam muttered, not even looking up. You know this is harassment, right? I just stared. You're targeting my property. Tammy took a step toward me. Her breath smelled like peanut butter crackers. You put your mailbox too close to the street. You're basically asking for it. It's where the city put it when I moved in. Then the city's dumb, Pam chimed in. Or maybe you're just trying to scam us for insurance money. I blinked. I haven't asked you for a dime. Yet, Tammy said with a smirk. That night, I sat in my garage, staring at the twisted corpse of my mailbox. The tools were hanging on the wall. The air smelled like motor oil and frustration. I wasn't even mad anymore. I was just tired. Tired of fixing things. Tired of being reasonable. Tired of pretending that civility could fix people like that. So I Googled indestructible mailbox. Turns out there's an entire underground world dedicated to this kind of thing. Ranchers, fed-up homeowners, folks in Montana who deal with drunk snowmobilers and bored teenagers. Mailboxes made of steel, anchored in concrete, reinforced with rebar. One guy embedded his into a granite boulder. I started reading, and laughing, and then sketching. 2 days later, the war began. I cleared out the garage, rolled up my sleeves, and built that sucker like it was guarding a bank vault. 4-inch steel pipe, 6 feet long, half of it buried in 200 pounds of concrete. I filled it with sand and rebar, welded the joints, bolted the whole thing to a plate you could land a helicopter on. On top, I mounted a sleek, normal-looking mailbox, black aluminum, chrome flag, innocent as can be. But under that shell, pure punishment. I poured the concrete at midnight. The moon watched me work. By sunrise, the trap was set. Next morning, I sipped my coffee at the window as Tammy and Pam waddled out in matching sunflower dresses. Tammy squinted at the mailbox. "He put up another one," she muttered. Pam giggled. "You think it'll last a week." Tammy jingled her keys. "Try an hour." But they didn't strike that day, or the next. I think they sensed it. Something was different. The air was charged, like the mailbox was daring them. And then, a week later, Tuesday morning, 6:42 a.m., it happened. I was pouring water into the kettle when I heard it. Engine revving, tires squealing. I dropped the kettle and ran for the window. The Queen barge was flying down the street, straight at my lawn. Tammy behind the wheel, hunched like a cartoon villain. Pam screaming, phone in hand, filming. And then, boom! The front end crumpled like a soda can. Bumper folded, radiator hissed steam. The whole truck bounced back and stalled right in the middle of my yard. I walked out, phone recording. Not even smug, just tired and satisfied. The mailbox stood like a statue, not a scratch. Tammy stumbled out, clutching her arm, her dress torn, face twisted. "You sabotaged us," she yelled. "You mean I put up a mailbox?" I said, deadpan, "on my own property?" Pam shouted, "That thing's a weapon! You can't do that!" "It's city code compliant," I said. "I even have permits. Want to see them?" 10 minutes later, Officer Riggins showed up. Same guy who told me mailbox damage wasn't a crime. He looked at the wreckage, then at the mailbox, then at the footage. "Looks like you drove straight into it," he said. Tammy shrieked. "He built it to cause damage." "Mailboxes have to survive weather and accidents," Riggins replied. "Yours didn't survive hitting his. Not his fault." The best part? Her insurance denied the claim. Intentional collision. $7,000 in damages. All on her. They tried spinning it. Posted a half-baked TikTok blaming me for vehicular sabotage. My version went viral on Reddit. 500,000 views in a day. Mailbox boss versus Karen twins, memes, remixes, even got fan art. And oh, they were furious. But they didn't stop. They pivoted. Trash in my yard, barbecue sauce on the mailbox, candy wrappers shoved into my mower. I caught it all on tape. Floral robes, flip-flops, nighttime raids like low-budget raccoons. I posted a new video, The Sauce Chronicles. It blew up again. This time, even the HOA couldn't ignore it. Next week, they filed 3 complaints against me. Weaponized mailbox, surveillance, hostile landscaping. I showed up at the meeting with a folder thick as a phone book. Videos, timestamps, neighbor statements. Mr. Leland, the HOA president, took one look inside.